everyone, and welcome to the MashanddDrum Whiskey Room. My name is Jason C, and if you're a subscriber, thanks so much for the support. If you're new to the channel looking for the latest in whiskey and bourbon news and reviews, you have found the right place. So hit that subscribe button below and hit that bell notification so you know when I'm releasing a new video, or you could join in one of my fun live streams. Double Bass is back for 2020. Welcome to the 9th episode in this special series called Double Bass, where you, the viewers, get to pick two great whiskeys to put head to head to see which one comes out on top, and we get to learn a little something about them both as well. Today we have a long-awaited whiskey matchup voted on by a few different viewers. Both are special releases from Michter's. We have Shanks Homestead Kentucky Sour Mash Whiskey and Bomberger's Declaration Kentucky Straight Bourbon. So let's learn a little bit about these two releases from Michter's. Michter's distillery in Louisville, Kentucky has been creating an impressive range of award-winning American whiskeys since the brand was resurrected by President Joseph Magliocco in the 1990s. Now distilling in their own facility since August of 2015, the Michter's brand has seen a quick return to global recognition for the quality of both their own and their sourced whiskeys. Under Master Distiller Dan McKee and Master of Maturation Andrea Wilson, Michter's core range of whiskeys under their popular US 1 line consists of their bourbons, rye, American whiskey, sour mash American whiskey, and several limited edition versions like the Tosin and barrel strength versions. Their age-stated whiskeys, which are bottled under their 10-year-old, 20-year-old, and 25-year-old labels, consist of straight Kentucky bourbon and rye whiskey, which comes from source stocks as well, and they've become really popular. But recently, Michter's have also released a couple of bottles that pay homage to their history. Shanks Homestead Sour Mash Whiskey and Bomberger's Declaration Kentucky Straight Bourbon, which both honor the heritage of the Michter's brand. Shanks Homestead Sour Mash Whiskey is one of the two legacy brands produced by Michter's, which honors the legacy and history of both the brand and original Michter's distillery in Schaefferstown, Pennsylvania. Shanks Homestead Distillery Sour Mash honors the legacy of historic American whiskey figure John Shenk, who in 1753 founded a distillery that was to become known as Michter's in the 20th century. It is made in Kentucky according to the traditional sour mash process, where a portion of the previously distilled whiskey mash, referred to as setback, is added into the next batch for consistency. Today we have the 2018 bottling of Shanks, which includes a previously unreleased mash bill and a portion of the source whiskey, which was aged in French oak barrels and blended into the final batch. Now, just like the Michter's Sour Mash from the Michter's core lineup, the dominant grain in the mash bill is neither corn or rye, so it can't be classified as either a rye or bourbon whiskey. Just a whiskey. Now, this is a non-age stated bottle at 91.2 proof, has a retail price of around $80 to $100. Now, the Bomberger's distillery has roots dating back to the mid-1700s when John and Michael Shenk, those two famous Swiss Mennonite farmers, began distilling rye whiskey in Schaefferstown, Pennsylvania, like I mentioned earlier. Their distillery was acquired by Abraham Bomberger, who operated it up until Prohibition. Now, following Prohibition, the distillery changed hands many times, but was ultimately acquired by Lewis Foreman under the direction of his master distiller Charles Everett Beam, who would eventually develop a pot still sour mash whiskey that would come to be known as Michter's Original Sour Mash Whiskey. But after the many times the distillery changed hands, in 1970 it had officially become the Michter's Distillery, but the distillery was still unable to find its footing and eventually closed its doors and abandoned its trademark in 1990. Fast forward 6 years, a company named Chatham Imports began the process of revitalizing the Michter's name. The Bomberger's name was also revitalized back in 2004, but resulted in a long legal battle between two competing companies looking to resurrect the storied brand. Ultimately, Chatham would prove to be successful in this battle and release the first batch of Bomberger's Declaration to honor the legacy of the former distillery known as Bomberger's in the 1800s and later as Michter's in the 20th century. The 2019 release of Bomberger's is an NAS straight Kentucky bourbon bottled at 108 proof and aged in some Chiquapin oak barrels selected by Master of Maturation Andrea Wilson. This bottle carries an MSRP of about $100. Now, before we get started, here's how I will score it. I will give a score between 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest in 4 different categories: nose, palate, finish, and consistency. The Michter's special release with the highest total score wins. Now, like always, I will be doing this one blind because I don't have a lot of experience with either of these and I have never put them head to head. Plus, I want to learn as much from these two bottles as you guys. So first, let's mix them up. Alright guys, so keep a close eye on the scoreboard to keep track of the scores. The glass on my right side will be glass A, the glass to my left will be glass B. That's how we'll score it. Let's go to the nose first and see what we get here. Glass A has a beautiful butterscotch nose right out of the glass. Really delicious bourbon nose. Tons of caramel. Man, a lot of vanilla, a lot of kind of... I'm picking up a real nice spiciness to this as well. Good cinnamon. Man, beautiful nose on this. It smells super, super sweet. Almost getting a little bit of like a cotton candy type aspect to it as well. Yeah, and more cinnamon, more baking spices starting to come to the forefront. Definitely get some oak characteristic. Man, the almond though and the butterscotch, it's just like a pure, just butter candy, like Werther's Original Candies. Good amount of orange. Picking up a hint of chocolate in here too now. Let's kind of open this up a little bit more. Man, the nose is just a pure, delicious, beautiful nose. I mean, it's got that typical Michter's type viscosity to it. It almost smells like it's going to be creamy. Not a lot of proof coming through here, though. A little bit of, man, I almost get like concentrated orange, like orange bitters or something. It's really nice in the nose. All right, that's a beautiful bourbon nose. Let's go to letter B here, see what we get. Wow, this one's way different. This one I'm not getting as much butterscotch. I'm getting way more of like a burnt caramel nose on this one. Definitely more oak presence going on in this class. I'm smelling a lot more oak, a lot more of that, some oak tannins. Definitely some sweetness from the oak as well. Good amount of vanilla. There's a slight dusty corn note to it too that I kind of like. If you've ever had a dusty bourbon, an older style bourbon, kind of in the 80s or even predating it, you kind of get like this dusty funk to it, but in a good way. And that has that in the glass a little bit. A little bit of cherry, apple. Wow, really, really different noses. Man, okay, let me write down my notes and then we'll score it. All right, so for letter A, I gave this one a solid 4.2. I think the nose on this one is really, really beautiful. It's that butterscotch note that I just so much love in a good bourbon. Like I mentioned, there's some cotton candy in there. On my notes, let's see. Definitely, there was a hint of chocolate there. A lot of vanilla. Just a beautiful bourbon. The oak presence on this wasn't too much. I was getting a little bit of oak, but this was mainly kind of a candy bomb coming out of the glass. For letter B here, the glass on my left, I'm going to give this one a solid 4. This one was definitely more of an oakier profile to it. Cherry, apple, definitely more on the caramel side, not so much butterscotch, but still a pretty good nose. I just didn't find it as pleasing as letter A. All right, next category, let's go to the palate, see what we get. Cheers on letter A. Here we go. Oh, wow, this is one of those bourbons where the palate matches the nose. Getting a ton of sweetness here. This is buttery, rich, vanilla. I'm definitely getting a little bit of that cotton candy note that I found in the nose a little bit. Really, really nice. Let's go for another sip. Yeah, I'm picking up a little bit more dark fruits now in this one too. Maybe a little bit of a cherry on this one as well in the palate. The butterscotch, vanilla. There's a slight pepperiness to it. It's not overly peppery. You're not getting a lot of finish on this one. It's kind of lingering, kind of the back of the palate a little bit, but mainly on the front of the palate, you get this really nice sweet sensation up front. It's definitely more cotton candy, more butterscotch, definitely sweet forward. Let's go for one more sip here. Cheers. So third sip. Man, this is the epitome of an easy sipper. I mean, the amount of butterscotch and vanilla that is coming through here on the palate is really nice. Still get that cotton candy twang a little bit, kind of mid-palate. Sticks around. This doesn't seem like it's very high proof. It could be, if I had to guess, this might be the Shanks. That one's only just above 90 proof. Because it definitely doesn't really feel like it, but I don't know, some bourbons can drink a little bit hotter or a little bit less hot than the label may say, so we'll see what happens at the end when we find out which is which. But this one is just an absolute candy bomb. It's really delicious, so easy to sip. Yeah, really like that one. All right, let's go to letter B on the palate, see what we get. Cheers. All right, so that one, again, just like the nose, I got a big burst of oak right on the front of the palate. Definitely more oaky, a little bit more peppery here. Definitely more of that caramel. I said on the nose it had more of a caramel or a burnt sugar type aspect to it. Definitely get that in the glass. Go for another sip. The second sip for me, not so much. The second sip for me was a little bit, it kind of got that bitter oak flavor in it that just kind of kills it for a bourbon for me. It is sweet up front, but the finish, which is a little bit longer lasting than this one, it's leaving a nice peppery finish. But right before it finishes out, you get this little bit of a bitter oak type presence to it, which is I don't know, not my favorite. Let's go for another sip here. Here we go. Yeah, so what's happening here is right up front, caramel, vanilla, a lot more caramel though. A little bit of vanilla, you're getting a little bit of a dark fruit aspect. You're still getting a little bit of that cherry too. But man, right when it hits mid palate, you get kind of this mossy, wet, kind of like wood flavor to it. It's definitely a little bit bitter, and man, that's just kind of killing it on the palate for me a little bit. All right, so for scoring here for letter A, I'm gonna give this one a solid 4. I really like the sweetness of it. I really like the way it coats the palate. The sweetness really lingers. You get all those aspects of that beautiful butterscotch I was getting on the nose. It definitely sticks around the palate. It definitely falls back into that cotton candy flavor I was getting a little bit as well. Definitely a little bit of cherry, some dark fruits come in. Yeah, I mean, not much of a finish on this one. There's a little bit of a peppery aspect to it, but like I said, definition of a really good easy sipper. So for letter B, I'm gonna give this one a 3.2. This one is not doing it on the palate for me. I love the sweetness up front. I think this one has a little bit better of a mouthfeel than letter A here, but man, that wet, mossy, woodsy kind of bitterness really just kind of taking over the back of the palate and kind of killing the experience for me a little bit. So 4.2 for letter A and 3.2 for letter B. All right, let's talk about the finish. Here we go. Cheers. All right, so for letter A, this is not a long finish. This is not a super long finish. It definitely, I would say this is more short to on the cusp of medium. But what is nice, what I'm noticing, is that after this kind of works its way down the palate and kind of works its way down, all of a sudden you start getting these almond flavors, these sweet almond characteristics that kind of pop up in the middle of nowhere. I really like that about the finish. I like that when bourbons do that. When a bourbon just kind of, when you swallow it down, it just goes away. There's nothing else there. This one is kind of leaving a nice lingering aspect to it. It's going for one more sip. Yeah, and again, the finish is really nice. It definitely hangs around a little bit longer than I thought it would when I first tried it, but it's staying around in the aspect of that almond flavor, which I really, really like. It's a little bit of a pepperiness. You're still getting that cotton candy on the finish, but this isn't going to be the longest finish you're going to think in a bourbon. This is probably short to almost medium. All right, let's go to letter B. Here we go. Okay, now, so the finish on this one is definitely more, it's longer lasting. It's a little bit more peppery. It hangs around a little bit more, but it's still giving me that bitterness to it, which, oh man, I just wish it's killing it for me. It's like this wet, mossy, wood aspect that I mentioned earlier, and it's still sticking around. One last sip here for the finish. All right, that one wasn't, the next sip wasn't too bitter, but yeah, it's still there. Still getting that kind of like that wet, mossy note. More of that caramel, though, you still get on the finish. And this one's a little bit longer lasting. That pepperiness kind of hangs around. I would say this is right. This is closer to medium, of a medium finish than short. But still, that bitterness is there. All right, so for letter A, I'm going to give this one a 3.5. It's definitely a pleasing finish. It's just kind of short to medium. It doesn't really hang on too long, but it's very pleasing. It's very sweet. It's just a good bourbon finish. If you're looking, like I said, a good, easy sipper, this one definitely fits that bill. For this one, I'm just going to give this one a 3. It may last longer, but the flavors that are lasting longer are the ones I don't like. I don't like that bitterness that's coming through here. And it seems to be sticking around from sip to sip as well. All right, last category is consistency. Let's go on for letter A. I got to say, from sip to sip, letter A has stayed very consistent. It's still very sweet up front. Each sip, I'm getting the huge... I gotta say, letter A is being very consistent. Every sip, I'm getting that nice burst of butterscotch, a little bit of that cotton candy, short to sort of medium finish, not more on the short side as I mentioned. But yeah, it's really sweet. The finish isn't getting any shorter, any longer. Everything is kind of is staying very even keel. It's a very delicious bourbon. One last sip here on letter A. Yeah, that's just a good, sweet, easy, pleasing bourbon, and I seem to be getting the same experience from sip to sip, which is something I can appreciate. Sometimes, flavors change a little bit from sip to sip. This one's staying very consistent. All right, let's go to B and see what we get. Cheers. Now, from a consistency point of view, this is staying consistent. It is staying with that bitterness and that kind of wet, mossy wood flavor I was getting. I may not like how consistent it's being because it seems to be staying there, but as consistency goes, it also is staying very consistent. So both of them are going to score pretty high in consistency. All right, so for both of these, I'm going to give both of these a 4.5. They're both, the first sip on both of them was the best sip, probably usually mostly in a good bourbon. You get that first sip and everything, all the flavors really light up your palate. But from the second sips on, these stayed pretty consistent with the flavors they had. This one stayed very sweet, butterscotchy, pleasing, shorter finish, but still very sweet, cotton candy, butterscotch. Whereas this one, the first sip, I didn't get that huge bitterness right off the bat. But from the second sip on, it kind of just stayed and it lingered there and kind of killed it for me. So yeah, so 4.5 for this and 4.5 for that. All right, guys, so as you can see on the scoreboard, the winner of this one is Glass A, coming in with a final score of 16.2 to letter B, which is 14.7. So Glass A really kind of took it for me in this one. Let's find out what Glass A was. And Glass A was surprisingly the Shanks. So the Shanks comes out on top in this matchup, in this double base matchup. I just feel like this had really all the great sweet flavors that you love in a good whiskey. Obviously, this is not a bourbon, but the mix of grains that they use really gives it a really nice butterscotchy, candy type aspect to it. Fortunately, the Bombergers, this one just came in as just bitter for me. It had a really funky type of taste to it that just wasn't jiving with my palate. But, you know, I was glad to kind of taste these with you guys and kind of find out what these two were about. I think this one, I'm going to try to give it a chance here over time. Maybe with some air, the bitterness goes away, more of that caramel comes forward. But the Shanks is just an absolutely delicious, really sweet whiskey. Now, let's talk about price points. This one, as I mentioned, is about 80 to 100. This one I've seen for about $100, sometimes 110. If you're a Michter's fan, you love their sour mash, I think the Shanks would be something you would want to try, or definitely a try before you buy. The Bombergers for 2019, it's definitely a little bitter. If you like that flavor, you know, then probably go for it if you like that wet, mossy wood. But if you don't, if you're used to more of a sweeter flavor profile in your bourbons, I would probably say this would be a pass. All right, everyone, well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Double Bass, where we put Shanks Kentucky Sour Mash Whiskey against Bomberger's Declaration Kentucky Straight Bourbon. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little something about both these bottles. It was really kind of cool to sit and taste these with you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit that like button. If you haven't yet, find me on Instagram and find me on Twitter. Always love talking with you guys. Let me know if you've had these, if you've had the same experience I had. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share with. So cheers, and I'm going to drink some more Shanks. Take care, everybody. See you next time on The Mash and Drum.